evening and welcome to Tucker Carlson Tonight. We have exclusive new information tonight about one of the most perplexing mysteries in Washington. As you may have heard, Andrew McCabe, he's the deputy director of the FBI, announced today he's leaving his job. And the most obvious question is, why is he doing that? Was he pushed, or did he decide to leave himself? Well, you may know McCabe's name because he's been in the news repeatedly over the past several years. In 2016, it emerged that McCabe's wife had taken a large sum of money collected by one of Hillary Clinton's closest friends. This is significant because McCabe himself helped lead the investigation into Hillary Clinton's email server. You know, the one, the investigation in which Clinton was exonerated before she was even interviewed. McCabe never recused himself from that investigation. So was Andrew McCabe fired today, and was that firing the result of information contained in the still famous but still mysterious House Intelligence Committee memo, the one everybody is talking about but nobody outside of Congress has actually read? We decided to spend the day finding out all we could about that memo. We made a lot of calls. We talked to quite a few people who have read it. Here's what we learned. The memo, which is 4 pages long, primarily describes abuses of FISA. That's the law that allows the U.S. government to spy on American citizens for the purpose of stopping foreign threats, and only for that purpose. Spying on Americans is supposed to happen only in extraordinary circumstances, and of course never for political reasons. That would be a disaster. That's why we have FISA in the first place, to prevent that from happening. But that law has been abused, and the memo describes how. Quote, "It's shocking," says someone we spoke to who has read it. "It doesn't answer every question. It's not the final word on anything. But there's definitely enough there for criminal charges." Andrew McCabe is indeed mentioned in the memo. A number of our sources confirmed that to us. Is that the reason he left his job today? We couldn't get a definitive answer on that. It seems the memo likely played some part in his leaving, but in the course of our reporting, we learned something else from a source. McCabe is the subject of at least one internal DOJ investigation, maybe more than one. DOJ Inspector General Michael Horowitz has been investigating politically motivated behavior at the Bureau during the 2016 election. One source told us that McCabe's resignation is likely tied to Horowitz's work. Other outlets have reported that FBI Director Christopher Wray proposed demoting McCabe over the findings of the Inspector General. Among the subjects of FISA warrants described in the memo is Carter Page, who was affiliated with the Trump campaign as a foreign policy advisor of some sort. The Obama Justice Department argued before a federal judge, and the memo describes this, that Page was an active agent of a hostile foreign government, a spy for Vladimir Putin. More than a year later, that claim looks absurd. Ridiculous, actually, because it is. Page has never been indicted for spying for anybody. No evidence has surfaced at all to suggest that that's even close to true. By the way, if Page is a Russian agent, why isn't he in handcuffs right now? Why is he on MSNBC all the time? This is nuts. Yet on the basis of that nutty claim, the Obama Justice Department was able to secretly surveil the Trump campaign. Not a small thing. The memo also apparently shows that when the DOJ wanted to extend spying on Carter Page, they used information from the now discredited Steele dossier to make their case, if you can even imagine. That was the basis of their request to the federal judge to keep a spying program in place. As one person familiar with the memo puts it, quote, "The FBI has been steadily politicized for years. Now it's being exposed for efforts to undermine and delegitimize a political candidate." Now, we don't know if that's true. We haven't seen the memo or the documents that support it. Neither has almost anybody commenting on it. But these are serious allegations. They are more troubling than the underlying crime in Watergate, that's for sure. You don't have to be a Trump voter to understand why the political use of intelligence and law enforcement agencies can destroy a country almost faster than anything else can. Yet Democrats don't care. How do we know they don't care? We checked. As of tonight, according to House Intel Committee staff, about 190 Republicans in the House, outside the Intel Committee, have read that memo. Meanwhile, outside the committee, only about a dozen Democratic members have read it. What's interesting, amazing if you think about it, is that though only a few Democrats have bothered to read the memo, they are all, to a person, adamantly against releasing it. But it doesn't matter what they want. It looks like the rest of us will be able to make our own judgments about what's in that memo very soon. The House Intelligence Committee voted tonight to declassify it. According to our sources, the entire memo will likely be read into the congressional record early next week. Dan Bongino is a former Secret Service agent and an NYPD officer, and he joins us tonight. Dan, it's great to see you.
Good to be here, Tucker.
So, I mean, my view from day one has been it's not about Trump, it's not about Obama, it's about the political use of our intel and law enforcement agencies. And what we learned today about the memo suggests that has happened. They've been politicized.
Yeah, Tucker, where are the Democrats on this? I thought this was the party of civil liberties.
Exactly.
You do not have to be a Trump supporter to understand that the constitutional republic as we know it cannot continue to exist if the Fourth Amendment is subject to the R or the D in front of your name. Make no mistake, because the liberals are hiding now, and they're all scurrying like roaches when the lights come on. They know what happened here. To spy on someone in the United States is legal if you can produce probable cause using legal means of a crime, or that someone is acting on behalf of a foreign agent in violation of some United States crime. None of that has been produced to this day. Not a single Democrat, Republican, or anyone else has produced a scintilla of evidence that anyone on the Trump team, and we're not talking about process crimes later, colluded with the Russians to justify an investigation to spy into what at the time was a candidate for President of the United States of the opposing party. This is devastating. Where are the so-called civil libertarians?
So what could possibly be the rationale for not reading the memo? Under current House rules, any member of the House can go in. You have to go to a secure location. But if you're an elected member of the House, you can read it. Only a dozen Democrats out of more than 100 outside the committee have done that. How could they explain that?
Here's what's going on here. The way sensitive compartmentalized information works, the systems aren't interconnected, Tucker. So when I was, say, in a SCIF when I worked in the Secret Service, there's information on certain systems that's not connected to the cloud or the internet. It is in Tucker's place, right? For someone to read that, you have to go to Tucker's place. It is not a coincidence that Devin Nunes, who has an entire scope of what happened, went back in March to the White House facility to read very specific intel that I think is very likely will be in this memo. What am I saying by this? That information was likely briefed to Barack Obama. What does that mean? That means that this information that was being used by Hillary and all this other stuff that was in the dossier and all of this spying was probably being inserted into daily briefs by Barack Obama. Why else would Nunes have to go to the White House to read it?
That's a great point. And, of course, it was the Obama administration that pushed for the surveillance powers over the Trump campaign. Very quickly, is it plausible that Obama administration officials really believed that poor Carter Page, I'm sure you've seen him in his television appearances, was a Russian agent, was working for Vladimir Putin? Do you think they really believed that when they asked for the right to spy on him?
I believe when you think Donald Trump is Satan, you can convince yourself of absolutely anything.
That's probably exactly right. Nicely put and true. Dan, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, God bless you, and God bless America.